This is Songezo Booi, Chief Executive Officer at the National Home Builders Registration Council, also known as NHBRC, and one of 5 officials who have been suspended after they were implicated in the George building collapse report. The long-awaited report has now been released, revealing several critical failures. These include the employment of unqualified personnel lacking formal engineering credentials, irregularities in registration processes, gaps in the competency of key staff members, and violations of occupational health and safety standards. Human Settlements Minister stated that the investigation also revealed a lack of competency on the part of a technical manager, and that the George municipality approved the building plans only after construction had already begun. According to the report, this significantly contributed to the technical failures observed during the construction process. The NHBRC chairperson added that the findings recommend holding the implicated officials accountable for their actions. She revealed that the investigation uncovered serious flaws in the NHBRC's enrollment procedures. In this case, enrollment was processed only after construction had already begun, which allowed the contractor to move forward with building a multi-story structure without proper authorization. The report suggests that construction proceeded largely because an NHBRC employee, who happens to be black, approved the required processes, despite the absence of formal enrollment. Meanwhile, the white contractors and engineers involved were able to carry on, seemingly without consequence. Notably, it appears that top-level personnel associated with the project, those who may have had the most to gain, have, at least for now, avoided accountability. The most serious allegation against Songezo Booi appears to be that he used his own credentials, along with those of unnamed officials, to enroll the project's first phase. The identities of these other officials remain unknown. Their names have not been disclosed, and the full contents of the investigation have yet to be leaked, which is highly unusual in the South African context. Western Cape Premier Alan Winde's office received the preliminary investigation report on August 1st. However, it remained with his office until January of this year. 5 months after receiving the report, Winde stated publicly that they were still in the process of consolidating various investigations and awaiting their completion. At this point, it's unclear what may have been excluded from the final report, or whether individuals with minimal involvement were portrayed as playing a larger role. To be clear, this video is not intended to make such claims. The truth is, many details surrounding this matter remain unclear and incomplete. In July, acting George Municipality Manager Dawie Adonis denied a request from community newspaper publisher Group Editors to make the building plans public. The request was submitted under the Promotion of Access to Information Act, also known as PAIA. Adonis cited Section 36 of PAIA in his refusal, claiming the documents contained trade secrets as well as financial, commercial, scientific, and technical information, and that releasing them could potentially harm the financial interests of the parties involved. This residential development, referred to as 75 Victoria, it was slated to consist of 2-bedroom apartments intended for sale. These units were previously advertised at R1.7 million each. Records filed with both the George Municipality and the Deeds Office indicate that a 1,228 square metre piece of land was sold for R2.07 million to a company named Pacific Breeze Trading, 91 on November 4, 2020. The company, registered in 2005, is led by directors Karel Swanepoel, Anton Boysen, and Annette Swanepoel. Noteworthy individuals associated with the project include Athol Mitchell, serving as the consulting engineer, Jan Frolik as the town planner, and Clinton Peterson in the role of senior manager. The developer behind the block of flats is Neo Trend Group, ICE Project. And basically, ICE Projects is confirmed to be in a joint venture with NT Neo Trend and appointed Leotel Development as the contractor to build Neo Victoria. The developer also shows face on signage, but the contractor isn't on any signage. Following the completion of plan submissions, meetings were convened to request modifications to the development. These changes included the addition of an extra level, basement parking with 66 bays, and an increased structure height of 17.17 meters. In January 2021, George's senior manager of town planning, Frolik, approved their application with several modifications, though final approval would require the submission of plans. The approval was based on several factors. Firstly, the property's proximity to public transport facilities, such as bus stops, was noted, facilitating efficient public transport systems and transportation-oriented developments. Moreover, the development was seen as addressing a critical need for housing opportunities while promoting densification in strategically designated areas. Importantly, it was determined that the project would not negatively impact neighboring properties. In March 2021, Froelich, representing Pacific Breeze, submitted an application to increase the number of floors in the development from 4 to 5. Concurrently, a local conveyancer confirmed in the same month that the title deeds did not contain any restrictions regarding the intended land use outlined in the land development application. All proposed plans received approval in July 2023. Given that the initial completion dates from previously sanctioned plans were set for March 31, 2024, the new timeline adjusted completion to July 2024, with occupation slated for August 2024. The process of final plan approval took just over 2 years. However, despite factors such as a 3-month winter period and a 3-week builder's holiday, there remained an expectation for the building to be completed within a year. When an engineer seals the design, he or she takes responsibility for its accuracy and safety to the general public. But to error is human, and that's what engineers are. This observation underscores the situation at hand, as it indicates that the approval was granted by the engineers without a thorough examination and calculation, which could have uncovered its inherent flaw. In a tweet that was later deleted at that time, Newsroom Africa had Western Cape officials stating their inability to identify the contractor accountable for the site where the building collapse occurred. This prompted speculation about whether the developers involved in this project had any connections to the DA. This speculation escalated when Cameron tweeted alleging significant ties between the contractors and substantial funding from the DA. Later after that, the DA-led government appointed an engineering firm of their choosing to investigate the cause of the building collapse. All of this reignited a series of narratives asserting the DA's alleged involvement in corruption scandals related to land and property development in the Western Cape. Given that the DA was mired in this incident, handing the report over to the Premier, who happens to be a DA member, was a questionable decision. It raises serious concerns about impartiality, especially considering the perception that DA leadership does not always act in the best interests of the broader population. That alone casts doubt on whether this process was ever going to be handled with integrity. In the immediate aftermath of the collapse, Edwards stated that the municipality had been working in coordination with the Western Cape government, the South African Police Service, and the Engineering Council of South Africa to compile and provide all relevant documentation. And then, nothing. That was the last time we heard anything about the investigation until now. This isn't an exaggeration. The silence was deafening. The media, columnists, the Business Council, and virtually every influential voice said absolutely nothing. And when that happens in South Africa, it's often a sign that wealthy, well-connected white individuals are involved, and they are being protected. In the previous video, I mentioned that the findings might never be published. They eventually were, but we're still left with more questions than answers. It feels like everything remains shrouded in secrecy. The report said a lot, but without offering concrete details or naming more of the key individuals who led and oversaw this project. Where are the people in this photo? Why haven't they been named in the investigation? It's hard to believe that one black man is being left to take the fall alone. Meanwhile, the victims are still recovering, and the families of those who lost loved ones are left grieving without any closure. This is shaping up to be one of those cases that quietly fades away with no real consequences. But still, we can only hope that justice will prevail.